Hey guys, so today I'm going to be going over our very first Mythic Soulrender kill. And like normal, I'm not going to be going over and explaining all the mechanics of the fight, but more so how we chose to deal with them. And so the first decision you're going to have to make is comp. And I think that this is a fight that gets exponentially harder the less Death Knights you have, especially if you don't have a Blood Death Knight. So for this fight, I played Blood DK, and we just so happen to have two DPS DKs. And I also think this fight gets exponentially easier if you have at least one monk. Not only do they do really good damage, but what they do is they bring Ring of Peace, which you'll see later. So we lost on pole, that's like super standard. So it's going to be very hard to hear in my audio, but there is a player that is not me that is calling out which lane is going to be safe on the next mechanic. I think it's really important if you can to like divvy up the responsibility, because there will be times when I have to call out chain breaks, and then we also have to be calling out which lane is going to be safe.
Good ads.
So the first thing I think that's really important that you really get your raiders to understand is, as soon as you see where the big ad is spawning, I always try to call it like what lane it's going to be in, but the brands need to get to the big ad as soon as possible. So we had 4 players assigned to CC. It was the monk's job to use his Ring of Peace to knock away any ads away from the big ad, and then the brands just need to already be there.
Spawning in 3. Two grips.
So we have it really easy. I have double grip, and then the 2 DPS DKs have grip. And in terms of tanking, one of the things that's important to note is you can see on my screen the buffs, right? So you can see that the other tank has 34 seconds left on his debuff, and I still have time left on my debuff. There will be overlaps where one tank has to be tanking the boss with the damage taken. What we pretty much decided to do was, it was like the tank's job who was taunting to have the defensive prepared for taking extra damage. So as a DK, I still feel like I could have played this fight a lot better defensively. I would try to have Vamp Blood for it. I didn't have it for the first swap, but I made sure to like pool my runic power so I could just insta heal myself.
Chains.
So the way we approach chains is, you can see on the right of my screen here, there's a weak order that you can get that goes based off VRT, where it will assign the players. So it'll show up in the middle of the screen, like you are chain star, you are chain orange, you are chain purple. And what we had to do with our healing comp, because I don't really think our healing comp was that good for this fight. So we had 1 shaman, we had 2 holy priests, a disc priest, and a resto druid. So we had like an HPS healing comp, and the downside to that is, when you're breaking the chains, like the meta thing to do is to instantly break the first 2 chains, and then you wait for the swirly to show up on the ground, and then you break the 3rd chain. We were able to do this pretty much never. What we had to do is kind of pace them out a little bit more, because we don't have as many DRs as some other comps do. And our first kill, we didn't have a paladin DR.
Chain 1.
So I would individually call the chains.
Chain 2.
And what made it difficult for us, you could see just like a fuck ton of healing CDs being used. What made it difficult for us is that we had to dodge while a chain is being broken. So if you had to dodge while a chain is being broken, if you get hit by the swirl, you just die. And that, I think, increased the amount of time that we have to spend on prog.
Let's go for it, guys. I appreciate Aubrey, but I should be fine. Prepare for ads. Alright, look for big. Spawning in 3.
So you hear me call out almost every time. Look out for big, and then I will try to call out where it's spawning. The faster you single target on the big ad, the faster you can get the other ads grouped, the faster you can get back to boss. Scripts. And generally speaking, when the big ad is like 30%, I'd call for grips. And I'd either have mass grip or the slappy hands from Necrolord for every ad set. I let my bow and shield drop there. That was pretty bad. Alright, so we're about to get our dance, and honestly, the dance isn't very difficult in terms of what I thought we fucked up the most on. You just have one player assigned to calling it out, and then we had a wind rush and triple roar, so we constantly had movement speed if we needed it.
3, 1, 4, 2.
I think the other element that I felt like I played pretty poorly on is you can see I'm at 10 bone shield stacks, so I shouldn't have let this drop. I'm pretty sure I do here. Yeah. I should have just been paying attention to it more instead of just trying to do damage. Because I could have started taking the boss with 10.
2.
Look for CC. Look for big. Spawning 2. So the brands did a really good job. They instantly got there. And you see new brands. 2 crypts.
4.
It's chains 2 after this dance. Healing spells. Chain 1, go.
Take boss.
I was insanely late on that taunt, or he nerfed it off of me. Not sure what happened there. As you can see, like, what makes this phase, if you go slow on breaking chains, is we have triple AMZ down. A, they're spread out as fuck, which is really bad, and B, the pace in which we break our chains is like, you have to do so much movement. As you, it just looks really messy.
Chain 3.
On the second set of chains, you can go slow, right? And like, generally speaking, the pace of the chain is dictated by what else is going on in the fight, aka is the dance happening or are the cones filling up. Most of the time, you can go relatively slow.
2.
Scary set after this, guys. So I call it scary set after this. Chain set 3 is by far the hardest set of chains, and I wish we would have thought of this at like way earlier than it took us. But particularly on chain set 3, you want the third player taking the chain to be someone with high mobility, aka a demon hunter. And what you can do is you can break 1 and 2 pretty fast, and then you can recover and wait for 3, and then whichever lane is free, a demon hunter can just like, jump to, or fell rush to, and break their chain. If you don't break your chain in like the new opening one, like how fast you have to go is just insane to beat the dance. I look for big, spawning in 2. Okay, to chains, chain 1.
Skull is broken.
Somebody
Chain
took
2.
my chain.
Alright, so what you guys are gonna hear is player mistakes. And I think when it comes to this fight, the two elements that took us the most time is A, we set up the interact with mouse over target macro. So players would pre-focus the gate, and then they would click the chain, and they'd hover their mouse over their focus frame, and then take the gate to break the chain. Players that haven't done this before, like in a progression setting, seem to really struggle setting it up for the first time. And then B, the area that took what I think way too much fucking time is players making mistakes with the chain, right? So we set up the weak aura, it's listed on the ERT note, and what would happen is players either forget to grab their chain, or they go on the wrong sets, or I call out chain 2 break, but then chain 2 and 3 break. I think like if you guys are gonna raid or warn your raid team, like what is like the biggest fuck up, what's the most common fuck up in this situation, it all revolves around the chains. Like the faster you get the chains down, the faster the boss dies. So what happens on this set is a player is supposed to be on chain set 4, but they took a chain on chain set 2. And then one of our players' mic wasn't working for the night, so we're trying to like figure out who took a chain that wasn't supposed to. And it gets really messy communication-wise here. But I think it's really important to see, and I feel like I could have done more to carry the situation as a raid leader. Chain 3. So I'm just like super out of position. I had to use my bull rush.
Good. Should we just get grips? Get kicks on skull.
Somebody also took my chain.
So who fucked up the chain?
And you can hear this is where it gets really confusing. Like I said, one of our players doesn't have a mic, and then one of our players thought they were on chain set 3, but they're on chain set 4. And it just gets messy.
We need to know if you did a chain on 3, like who just did a set of chain right there.
So I'm asking every team, like, well, who just did the chain, right? And like, obviously the player without a mic is not gonna be able to like let me know. So then he types out in raid, and it just gets.
So it was 90, and who else did? Who did you go?
One. No, I did not.
So you did a full
I'm
chain
dying.
set just now.
Two.
Somebody obviously knows they did it. Like, why?
Is it
Four.
Tago, did you go?
Yeah, he said it in chat. I did second.
Okay, so you're just gonna swap with Tago.
Wait, that wasn't scary set. It was...
Yeah, it was.
Three.
I thought it was.
That was. Did you go, Frack?
Okay, I did go.
You're
I
on?
fucked up then.
One.
I took pies.
Okay, so Pi, you're gonna do Fracks.
He's first on next, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I bring them.
Cool. So we figured out what happened. Hopefully you guys can hear that. It's tough, right? Because there's a lot going on, and you know, player mistakes are just gonna happen. So
Chain one.
you know, try your best just to like deduce what happened. But like I said earlier, like the biggest thing that I wish I would have like implanted into my raider's mind before we even pulled this boss is that this fight revolves around chains. You know, obviously you have to like CC the ads, you have to like damage the ads, you know, you have to get kicks and things like that. But the hard pass fail mechanic on this fight is the chains. So the more focus it's on the chains, the more you kind of emphasize this fight revolves around breaking chains. I think the faster you'll kill this fight. And then on this set, once again, you can go pretty
Frack,
slow.
Chain 2.
So I call it chain 2.
CCs. Bitch.
And chain 3 just fucking decided to go.
Look for big. You're only killing big here.
And then, okay, so here's another element of like good and bad RNG on this fight. And I think what it comes down to is before you do the dance, if you pull the boss away, you can kind of like milk the boss for a few seconds before the dance. I didn't really piece together that it kind of fucks timings, but I think if I didn't do that earlier on the last dance, that this ad set would have spawned a little bit faster before the cones. It's really hard to say. But either way, there's like slight RNG. So you can see the big ad literally just spawned. It's at like 96%. And then we got bad RNG, either A, where the ad spawned, or B, we have to run.
Yeah, big into 4.
So range just kind of need to hard carry this
Everyone's on
ad.
big. Watch Pi is nothing. Alright, let's get grips.
and then there's also another player mistake here. So you can't really see it on my note, but I am personally, like, looking back at the ads, I am responsible for the leftmost two ads, and then one of the DKs is responsible for the rightmost ad, and then one of the DKs is like responsible for, you know, the one that's, you know, the third farthest on the left or second farthest on the right. It gets confusing with like the RNG, the ads, but basically we only got grips on 3 with 4 grips, right? So something went awry here.
At chain 1. This is AMZ's chain 1. Chain 2.
3.
Let's get to 3. Then chain 3 can go here.
Another thing that happened on this poll, you assign 18 players to break chains, right? So there's 2 players that are backups, and honestly, being a backup is kind of stressful, and I think we got kind of lucky here. So like, I'm one of the backups. I'm not tanking the boss right now, so it's pretty easy for me to do a chain. And then B, the chain and like where it's located and then where it's safe in the room are both in the same location.
I got it.
So I'm able to just like snag the
That's
chain, I'm a bull rush
Yeah,
and
they're
break
still
it.
alive.
This was iron. Right, you're just focusing the back out here. Get CCs. Get CCs.
Yeah, so the boss, in my mind, I made the decision, you know, looking at this fight, if the boss is sub 10%, I see some guilds just burn boss. Like, what I wanted to do, and you can go either way, is I say burn big ad and then burn boss.
You're still killing the big ad.
We're not breaking these CC. 4, 4, 4, 4.
Just go 4. Kill the big ad and then burn boss. Everything on boss.
Yeah, I think that call was kind of bad. I should have called the finish off ad, but it honestly doesn't matter either way.
This well back.
And what's also nice about like our Tammy here is the boss is so low, like we don't have to do 6 set of chains.
Oh, these chains just burn.
So don't pull it.
No, just chill.
Yes, dude!
Cool. So that's the fight. Like I said in the video, I think the big thing that, you know, if you're just approaching this fight or if you're still learning the fight, I really do think like 70% of this fight comes down to chains. The other 30% is, you know, CCs, you know, kicks. There's some like micromanaging you have to do with damage, like how much you want to commit to ads, how much you want to commit to boss, and then just mechanics, right? I do think this is a fight that if you have a damage reduction healing comp, it gets incredibly easy. I also think the more DKs you have on this fight, the easier it gets. Cool. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, you know, feel free to message me or feel free to leave a comment. I also stream all of our prog on Twitch. I'll link my Twitch down in the description. All right, thanks for watching.